ಸರಿ, ನನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಲ್ಸಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಪೇಜ್ ನಂಬರ್ 369 ಒಂದರಲ್ಲಿ I can boldly assert that even the greatest of the saints of the world have remained short of the mark in this respect. The stage of negation which one craves for and is the real life abides in it, and all activities cease before one reaches this point. It is the central point and the real state of being, which in most of the cases remains unattained in spite of all the efforts. ಇದನ್ನೇ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. So the state of negation. So you have to go beyond purity, simplicity, and peace in order to reach the reality. People consider this stage of tum as their deadliest enemy. But if you ever happen to study a person in whom this state of complete ignorance is reigning in full swing, you will feel that in the highest pitch of advancement, he will, like an infant baby, have no awareness of his own condition. So, ಅದು ಅಂಡರ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. One who is established in reality will be like an infant baby, will not have any awareness of their condition. But if a slight touch of Sat is applied to it, he will then begin to have cognizance of his state of Tam. This is due to the fact that the meeting point of the two, which is between the Tam and the Sat, leads to a creation of a new state identical with which was the basis for creation. So Tam then, which is the highest, then if you add a little bit of Sat to it, then a new state is created, which was like very similar to what it was like at the start of the creation. So anyway, ಈ ಫಾರ್ಮುಲಾ ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. If you want to experience creation, what you need to do is establish yourself in the state of Tam and add a bit of Sat. Now, at your level, it's very difficult for you to grasp how you do it. But this is the formula. Establish yourself in the state of Tam, add a little bit of Sat, a new state is created. That becomes the point of creation. So just have this idea in your mind so that at some point of time you will grasp this. What is this that we are talking about? So Sat Tam plus Sat leads to a creation of a new state, from where new creation comes out. Generally, our eyes are attracted towards anything which is bright and glaring, which we commonly misunderstand as Sat. This bright object is nothing except Maya, and those who talk so highly about it are in fact far away from the sphere of spirituality even, not to say of reality. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲೂ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಚುಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ. ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಇರಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, in other words, when we are in the Pinda Pradesh, when we are still journeying in the Pinda Pradesh, many times in meditation, we do come across very bright kind of a glow or light. Many people have experienced this during the meditation, and that is in the realm of the Maya only. It is not a something higher condition. Many people who see this bright light inside, they think that they have actually reached something substantial as far as spirituality is concerned, and they start focusing on that bright light. And that's a very common mistake that people make. Hello.
Sorry, Maya means, is it the like Pinda Pradesha Maya or higher Maya?
Whenever we use the word Maya, it's always the Pinda Pradesh Maya. So you see white color in the third point. You can also see brightness, a bright light when you are in the Pinda Pradesh. Now the bright light that you see is partly the consciousness which has been cleaned of the samskaras. When the consciousness in a particular point gets cleaned of the samskaras, you can see a bright light. Okay. The second thing is when you actually come to the third point, you see a white color. It's not a bright light, it's a white color that you see. So remember these two things. Both of them can sometimes confuse you. Third point, white color, and the brightness of the consciousness. Remember, we are not going for any bright object. The reality is beyond light and beyond darkness. So even if you see a light, so-called light, it is nothing but consciousness in the realm of the Maya. That's all it is. And if you want to reach reality, you have to go beyond consciousness. ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ? ಸೊ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸ್ಪಷ್ಟ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ, ದೆನ್ ಸ್ಪಿರಿಚುಯಾಲಿಟಿ, ದೆನ್ ರಿಯಾಲಿಟಿ, ದೆನ್ ರಿಯಲ್ ಬ್ಲಿಸ್, ದೆನ್ ದ ಗೋಲ್. In the spiritual journey, you come across a state where you can actually ಓ ಧೀರಜ್ ಬಂದ ಏನೋ ಮದುವೆದೆಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬೇಜಾರು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಸುಧಾರಣೆ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಇವತ್ತು ವಾಪಸ್ ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅವ್ನು ಮದುವೆ ಕಳೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅಂತ ರೇಗಿಸಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅವ್ನು ಬಂದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ವಾರದಿಂದ. ಏ ಧೀರಜ್, ಧೀರಜ್, are you there?
Hello, yes, brother.
Dheeraj, we were just thinking about you because last time I told you that your face is now glowing with that special effects of marriage, and since then you have not turned up for 1 week. And now we are also talking about glow only. So sometimes we see a white glow inside, and that is all in the realm of the Maya. It is all nothing but consciousness. But we have to go beyond consciousness. That is our journey. Sarina. Even this glow and this glow, you have to go beyond. Remember, Priya sister is seriously looking at you. What kind of glow have you developed? She's trying to work out what kind of glow is it. But you are actually sitting in the dark. The light is behind you. You are sitting in the dark. Look at Praveen, how he is sitting. You should sit like Praveen. Much better now. Okay. So we were talking about the glow that you see in the Pindu Pradesh and also the white light or the white color that you see in the third point. And we should not confuse those two as something substantial in our spiritual journey. We have a long way to go before we cross all this white, dark, bright, light, everything we cross over. And then we reach reality. Shaina. Now, this bright object is nothing but Maya. And those who talk so highly about it is in fact far away from the spirituality, not to say of reality. But the people have developed such a state of torpidity that they are neither prone to hear nor perceive anything in this connection. They have lost sight of true reality, which is beyond light and dark. So, underline, true reality is beyond light and dark. ಅದು ನಾಸದಿಯ ಸೂಕ್ತ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾರಾದರೂ ಕೇಳೋಂಗಿದ್ರೆ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಂಗಿದ್ರೆ ಈ ವೇದಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಋಗ್ವೇದದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ನಾಸದಿಯ ಸೂಕ್ತ. ರೈಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಡೌನ್. ನಾಸದಿಯ ಸೂಕ್ತ, NASADIYA, ನಾಸದಿಯ ಸೂಕ್ತ. So it's part of the hymn in Rig Veda. And Rig Veda explains about creation. That Nasadiya Sukta explains about creation. What was there before creation? So the entire Sukta is that only. It's a very nice one. And Babaji used to also refer to the Nasadiya Sukta during his times in Rig Veda. Right? So I would want you to hear that Nasadiya Sukta. It's there in the YouTube. I have heard it quite a few times. I want you to hear it because you will learn a lot. It will be useful for your journey. Sarina? This is what has been shown in the emblem of the mission, and that is in the true sense the state of the man's perfection from which no decline or fall is possible. So which is the state from where the no decline is possible? Once you get established in the state of reality, then there is no question of any descent or fall possible. This is a very delicate point of philosophy. The saints have generally called this state of neither light nor darkness as Satpad, which is not correct. During Lalaji's times, they used to take Satpad as the highest. Because this state is much beyond it. What state? The state of reality is much beyond Satpad. Satpad is a state which comes around the 12th and 13th point. And we have to cross that and then enter into the central region and then go towards the reality. So reality is far beyond the stage of Satpad. But during Babri Lalaji's time, Satpad was taken as the goal. And people who used to practice to reach that goal of Satpad, they were called as Satsangis. Okay. This is in fact the reflection of reality, which in itself is still beyond. So the Satpad is a reflection of reality. It is not reality itself, it's a reflection of reality. This may be quite astonishing to most of those who go through these pages, but I have written only for those who are well advanced in spirituality and are in thorough knowledge of this science. So underline, of this science. Spirituality is a science. It can only be experienced in a practical way and is not to be found within the bounds of religion. It is an entirely different path. It is in itself a science for which one may not be well fitted unless he develops the capacity to perceive nature with his inner eyes. So, how to perceive it? How to develop that sensitivity? You have to develop the sensitivity to see nature with the inner eyes. Then you get the ability to perceive the reality as it is. Because reality is beyond nature. So, if you perceive nature as it is, then at some point of time, once you cross over nature, you will perceive the reality as it is. Does it make sense? If you perceive nature as it is, then at some point of time you cross over nature and then you are established in reality, which is also as it is. Fair enough. So, any question here? I think you've got a reasonable idea about the stages. Okay. Satpad is around 12th point, 12th, 13th point, in between the 12th, 13th point. Then you have to enter into the central region. Once you enter into the central region, that is when you actually realize the self realization around that. And then you actually proceed through the seven rings of splendor in the central region, and then you enter into the infinite ocean. Then you establish connection with the reality. That state that you have got when you have entered into the infinite ocean is the state of the thumb. A person who is established in the state of thumb will be like an infant baby, so innocent that they are not aware of their condition at all. But if somebody were to add a touch of sat to them, how to add a touch of sat to them? You ask some question, you make some comment, you basically stimulate them. Basically, the state of thumb is of almost inactivity. So you have to make them active by asking something or by doing something. Then you are actually adding a touch of sat to it. Then they suddenly become aware of their condition. If you leave them alone, they are totally unaware of their condition. They are happy to be established in that state of unawareness in thumb. Does it make sense? So this is something that you need to have very clear conception of, because that is how you actually proceed in the higher realms. So the identity no. As regards identity, I may say that it can be better be presumed to be something like a fine idea which subsequently develops into thought. So what is identity? It is a fine idea which subsequently develops into thought. Idea is at the level of the soul. The thought is at the level of the mind. In other words, for the idea, which is for the identity, which is like a very faint idea, to develop into the thought, you need the medium of the mind. In other words, when you move from identity and cross over into the 13th point and then come out of the 13th point and then move further down the points, that is when the mind is formed. Mind is not there in the central region. There is no mind in the central region. Just outside the central region, the mind starts getting formed nascently. That mind which is formed in the 13th point and beyond or downwards is the divine mind of God, godly mind. From the 13th point up to the 9th point, it is godly mind. Okay. Then from there further down, you have the Parabrahmandi mind, and then you have the Brahmandi mind, and then lastly you have the individual mind. Now we function at the level of the individual mind. That is our level of functioning. As you progress in meditation to higher points, suppose you enter into the Brahmanda Mandal or Parabrahmanda Mandal, then the mind also metamorphosizes into Brahmandi mind and Parabrahmandi mind. Does it make sense? Because there are many times you hear these words. So the first mind of God is when the creation starts and then you start moving down the seven rings of splendor. That is the first mind of God. Then as you come down outside the 13th region, 13th point, you enter into the divine mind of God or godly mind. So there is a slight difference between the first mind of God versus the godly mind or the divine mind that starts after you come out of the central region. In the, we will read about it. In the first mind of God, apart from the divine instructions, which is coming from near from the center, which is caught by these people who have this divine mind, the first mind of God, it just flows through the first mind of God in a vibrationless vibration state. That is what happens. So the instructions from the center flows down and then flows through the central region as a vibrationless vibration. After it crosses the ring, the central region, outer ring of the central region, it then gradually descends down towards the 12th and the 11th and the 10th point. There, it acquires the state of vibration. Earlier, it was vibrationless vibration. Now, it acquires the state of vibration. That's why I'm differentiating between these two, the first mind of God and the divine mind. They are two different things. In the divine mind, you have vibrations. In the first mind of God, you don't have any vibrations. It's a vibrationless vibration. That's the difference. Okay? How you perceive. Then, as it further comes down, then it comes to the stage of the Parabrahmanda, then it is called as Parabrahmandi mind, then it is called as Brahmandi mind in the Brahmanda Mandala. Then, as it comes down to the fifth point and then flows down to the first point, it is then called as the individual mind in this realm, in the heart region. From the fifth point up to the first point, it is called as the individual mind. Now, for a person who's gone through the journey from the first point up to the center, for them, there are no different aspects of the mind. It's only one mind all the way from that point in the center up to the first point. So they are established in that first point of God through and through. So whatever they receive at the center is what is felt at the first point. Okay. So Gopal Krishna suddenly went to feel that first point. Right. So Priya's sister is very, very serious about it. So I don't know why she's so serious today. Huh? I'm explaining things in a very threadbare manner. So she should be happy. But I don't know why she is just so lost in thought.
I
This
just
is
have one
all
question.
this is
How
all the Maya of the subconscious mind. ಹೇಳಿ
ಅಲ್ಲ ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಗ್ ನೆನಪಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ?
ಹೇಗೆ ನೆನಪಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಲ್ಲ
Apart, there is any other way apart from losing the hairs?
ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ಸತಿ ಕ್ವೆಶನ್ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ರಿ ಯಾವ ಪಾರ್ಟ್
ಅಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದೆಲ್ಲ ನೆನಪಿರುತ್ತೆ. How you get those exact words? You don't even think. You just spontaneously react. You remember everything. You can connect dots between topics. ನೀವು
that
ನಿನ್ನೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, you got
it's a very wonderful state to develop. Once you come to the ninth point, you get the divine key or the key, a master key to the royal storehouse of divine knowledge. At the ninth point, you get the master key to the royal storehouse of divine knowledge. Once you get that key, then all that is just kind of intermingling or interconnections of all the knowledge that you have got. Everything at that time suddenly makes sense. It's almost like the jigsaw puzzle is now clearly visible. All that you know is just few pieces that is left here and there. You just take that and then put it in the appropriate place, and the jigsaw puzzle is completed. Till you get that key at the ninth point, the jigsaw puzzle appears very, very puzzling because you don't have that clarity, you don't have that clear picture in your mind. What is it that we're actually aiming towards? How does each of these things manifest at different points? All these things are very iffy, so to say, iffy or fluffy. It's not very clear boundary. You start getting that clarity, that boundary of divine knowledge when you get that key at the ninth point. So we all hope that all of you can actually grasp that key at the ninth point, and it's accessible to everyone. Nature does not discriminate. We just need to crave towards moving towards those realms. Then it becomes very easy for you to catch hold of the things that is happening. ಆಯ್ತು. ಸೊ ಮತ್ತೆ ಧೀರಜ್ ಹೊರಟೋದ. ಧೀರಜ್ ಯಾಕೆ ಹೋದ ಅಂತ ಮತ್ತೆ ಅವನು ಮದುವೆಗೆ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಸೊ and the secret to this is just awareness and sensitivity. Awareness and sensitivity. Keep looking at the heart, keep looking at the nature as you see it, without much, what do you say, interference of the learnings that you've already had. So when you see, for example, when you see a baby, for example, our Praveen has a baby now, 1.5, 2 months old baby. Now, just by looking at the baby, he can learn a lot of things about spirituality. It is just a live demonstration of spirituality, what you have got in front of you. But normally, our mind is engrossed in so many different things that we don't look at what is right in front of our eyes in the way that it should be looked at. In fact, if Praveen has to agree, has to pick up spirituality, all that he has to do is just observe his baby over the course of the next 3 to 4 years. He'll pick up so much spirituality that he will all teach all of you who do not have kids how to manage the kids. And then he'll give you a demonstration by having the second and the third kid. That is what is going to happen. It's all, see, spirituality is all about pure observation with awareness and curiosity. That's all it is. It is not a very, very difficult science, so to say. Babri writes that it is a science, but it's not at all a difficult science. See, for example, I'll just give you one simple example. A 15-year-old has certain kind of innocence. A 10-year-old has a different kind of innocence. A 5-year-old will have a totally different kind of innocence. A 2-year-old kid will have a different kind of innocence. A baby, which is in the first few days of its life, has a different kind of innocence. Now, across all these realms, we use the same word innocence. Don't you think there are fundamentally so many differences between these stages, these states of innocence? We all have gone through that. Can we not even look back at our own life and then see what kind of innocence we had at different stages of our life? When a person becomes established in the state of thumb, they are like a newborn baby. That is their condition. A newborn baby does not have any knowledge about anything. But a person who is established in the state of thumb has knowledge about everything. That is what happens. So the moment you just provoke them with anything, with a comment or with a question, anything, then the knowledge immediately flows out. Because a new state is created. In that state, the knowledge just flows out from that new state of creation. Like creation started from that state of the stir. Very similarly, you actually go down from that particular realm. And how to recognize it? The recognition of that is that they have a very strong willpower. A person who is established in the state of thumb is said to be Brahmanishta. They have such a high willpower that whatever they will happen. It is bound to happen. Nature is helpless in front of their will. But remember, you get that kind of a will when you have given away your individual will. You have to pay a price for that. You cannot get it just like that. But you have to pay a very small price. You give away your individual will, you get the highest will, the Brahmanishta, the divine will. Now that divine will is unfailing. And that's how, so if you want to look at a person in terms of their growth in spirituality, look at how their willpower works. That's a very simple thing for you to look at. A person who is higher in spirituality, their willpower works all the time. But they cannot go on willing for different things. Like for example, Gopal Krishna says that we can will for winning the cricket match, but we will not use that willpower for that particular purpose. It is not for that purpose. It is used in a selective way, not all the time. Okay, and especially it is unfailing in the spiritual realm, like that. So, in fact, one of the tips for you is go take sittings with those people who have that kind of a will. See the magic that unfolds. Because their will is unfailing. Whatever is the condition that they will that should develop in your heart, it is bound to happen now or in the future. You cannot escape it. Generally, that kind of a willpower is not applied for material things, although it can be used for material things, but it's not applied for the material things. But in a spiritual realm, where it is applied, it is unfailing. In fact, that is also one of the reasons why the sittings with many different preceptors also vary. Depending on the journey of the preceptor, depending on their alignment to the master, the willpower varies with the preceptors. So, since the willpower varies, the kind of conditions that you get, the kind of journey that you can make also varies with the preceptors. Now, most of the people have this confusion that all preceptors use the same power. That is true. There is nothing wrong with it. The power that is used is by masters only. However, how do you utilize that power, how much you grow, and how much of that power you are capable of utilizing by the development of this divine will is all entirely up to the preceptor. Does it make sense? So, for example, the same lesson is taught by the teacher to say 100 kids. But the kid who has a strong will, strong intention and will to learn, learns more than others. Right? Picks up the things far more than others. Very similarly, a preceptor who is aligned to the master, who is also developed that kind of a strong will have far more impact on the abhyasi when they come for sittings than otherwise. And it's all the duty of every preceptor to develop this special will in due course of time. Okay, it will not come suddenly. It will come step by step, step by step. As you proceed to higher and higher points, the willpower becomes correspondingly stronger and stronger. Now you need to look at your own willpower and see how is it manifesting compared to the past. So you need to be sensitive for that also. Okay, not in terms of buying a car, buying a bike, going to Himalayas, having second and third kid, not in that realm. For that, even the materialistic will is enough. For the divine will, you're looking at the spiritual work. That is where your actually journey gets reflected in how the spiritual work is executed with the abhyasis. And there again, you are a judge of yourself in the sense that initially you give certain sentence and see how it goes. As you grow as a perceptor, then how does that particular work now become more subtle and more effective? These are all the things that you have to apply as you grow as a preceptor. And that is what we call as well-informed and well-trained preceptor. You need to undergo the training so that you can become more and more effective in the preceptor work that you do. Okay, master makes a statement that a full preceptor can do everything that the master can do. There is no restriction. However, why the restriction? Why the difference then? It is just that the preceptors do not develop confidence in themselves or in what master says about them. It is just a lack of confidence, not the completion. There is lack of completion of the journey also, and lack of development of the willpower also. So there is lack of confidence. The journey has not yet been completed. And third one is because the journey is not yet completed, you are not established in divine will. But if the preceptor were to take the work seriously and start doing more and more work, utilizing more and more techniques over a period of time and do their sadhana regularly, they might as well do all the things that the master does. They will also be able to do. Okay, but remember, in spite of that, our relationship with the master will remain the same as a disciple. That will not change. No matter how much you grow in your material world, your relationship with your teachers in the schools and colleges will remain the same. You will always be a student for them. It will never change. You might become the best, topmost CEO of the topmost company in the world, but in front of your teachers, you are still a student. So that's something that we have to remember. That will actually keep you in a more humble state with lot of humility. When we lose that humbleness or humility, that is when we actually start falling down in spirituality again, because the ego now comes back again. When we are established in the state of humility and surrender, the chances of ego coming again is very minimal. Does it make sense? So even when you evolve to a level where you are able to do everything that the master does, you are still the disciple of the master. That will never change. Not only in this life, in any life. And that's important to keep in mind. Of course, when you cross the 13th point, enter into the central region, uh, there is no mind only. How will you keep it in the mind? You cannot keep it in the mind. At that time, you are established in the state of humility so much that will never change. Even if you enter into the central region, the same state is maintained through the central region. Because there is no mind there to actually maintain it. It's just that you are established in the state of humility permanently. ಓಕೆ ಆಯ್ತು. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನಗರಿ ಆಯ್ತಾ. ಸಿಕ್ಕಾಬಿಟ್ಟೆ ಸೀರಿಯಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಏನೋ ಹಿಂಗೆಲ್ಲ ಇದೆಯಾ ಹಂಗೆಲ್ಲ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ಆಯ್ತಾ. ಬಟ್ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಸಿಂಪಲ್, ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಕ್ಲೂ though. When you observe people, just see how effective their willpower is in terms of the spiritual work. That is all that you have to observe. And that's an important lesson that you have to grasp, because during the course of your journey, you will go through many different preceptors. You are still in the early stages of your journey. There are a lot of preceptors that probably you will go through. Your job is to look for how effectively the work that is done is getting manifested. The more effective it is, the more closer to the divine will they are. Right? So, identity is like a fine idea, and then when the mind is born, it now then takes on the role of the thought. It is very difficult to convey its exact sense of identity. One may, however, take it to mean that that which brings into our cognizance the consciousness of the origin, or a bit grosser form of the original conscious. In other words, reality garbed in somewhat grosser covering. That's the best way of describing the identity. It is nothing but reality which is covered up in finer coverings. Grosser coverings ಅಂತ ಬರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. A grosser covering ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ we'll talk about it later. Reality is at the center, and the identity is just inside the central region, just inside. That is where the identity is. Reality is at the center. The identity is nothing but a speck of the reality. It is a speck of the reality covered by sad. What is the sad, Gopal Krishna? I always keep asking him the sadness, and then he repeats the sad with a lot of sadness.
Separateness, anxiety, and desire.
So when a speck of reality gets covered by these three coverings, that is your identity. ಸರಿಯಾ? ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎರಡು ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಉಂಟು: ಗ್ರಾಸರ್ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ, ಫೈನರ್ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ. When you go towards the reality, towards the center, you are very closely aligned to the center. you are established in finer reality, finer identity. When you are nearer to the place where after you cross that ring, you come out of the central region. When you say you are in the periphery of the central region, you are established in the stage of grosser identity. ನಾವು ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ ಎರಡು ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ ಉಂಟು. Grosser identity at the periphery of the central region and finer identity at the level of the center. ಯಾರು ಹೋದ್ರು? ಯಾರೋ ಎಕ್ಸಿಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದಾರಲ್ಲ. ಗುರುಪ್ರಸಾದ್ ಬಂದ, ಧೀರಜ್ ಬಂದ, ವರುಣ್ ಯಾರೋ ಹೋದ್ರ? ಇಲ್ವಾ? ಗುರುಪ್ರಸಾದ್ ಇವಾಗ ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಲಾಗಿನ್ ಆದ್ನ, ಎರಡರಲ್ಲಿ ಲಾಗಿನ್ ಆದ್ನ, ಅಥವಾ ಯಾರೋ ಲಾಗಿನ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ?
ಅವರೇ, ಅದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಯಾವುದು?
ಗುರುಪ್ರಸಾದ್ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಂದೇನು?
ಹಾ ಸರ್, ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ.
ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಕ ತೋರಿಸೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಆನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ನೀನ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ತೋರಿಸಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ನೀನ್ ಬರೀ
ಸರ್
ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀಯ.
ಸರ್, ಇದು ಡಿಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ.
ಏನ್ ಡಿಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಿಲ್ವಾ?
ಯಾಕೋ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ನನ್ನ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಡಿಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ತಾನೆ?
ಹಾ ಸರ್.
ಸರಿ, ಇದು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಫೈನರ್ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ ಅಟ್ ದ ಸೆಂಟರ್. ವೆನ್ ಯು ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಲೈನಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಸೆಂಟರ್, ಗ್ರಾಸರ್ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ ಇನ್ ದ ಪೆರಿಫರಿ ಆಫ್ ದ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ರೀಜನ್. ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ರೀಜನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಫ್ರಮ್ ಎ ಗ್ರಾಸರ್ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ ವಿ ಮೂವ್ ಥ್ರೂ ದ 7 rings of splendor and we develop into a finer identity. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಅಟ್ ದ ಪೆರಿಫರಿ ಆಫ್ ದ ಸೆಂಟ್ರಲ್ ರೀಜನ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್. As we move towards the center, we lose that awareness. We establish ourselves in the state of unawareness. That stage of unawareness near the center, where you are established in the state of a finer identity, is the state of thumb. State of thumb ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ, state of thumb ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, you are established in a state of total unawareness but with finer identity. That is the state of thumb. ಸರಿನಾ? ಸೊ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಅಟ್ ಸಮ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಟಿ ಸಪರೇಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಬಾಡಿ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಮೈಂಡ್. ದಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಒರಿಜಿನಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್. And initially when you experience that original existence, it is covered by these 3 coverings: the idea of separateness, anxiety and desire. Same. That identity is akin to reality because it's a speck of reality. ಇದು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ? So when we go towards the center, we align ourselves to the higher reality. Our own identity is nothing but reality, but as a speck of reality. As we go towards the center, we align with the higher reality, from where we are actually born for the first time as a true identity. That is what happens. ಸರಿ. ಸೊ ಈ ಐಡಿಯಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, SAD ಜ್ಞಾಪಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಬಬ್ಲಿ ಹಿಯರ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಟೈಮ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಯುವರ್ ಜರ್ನಿ. ಸರಿನಾ? It is that SAD which is playing a huge role in your life in this earth. The idea of separateness, anxiety and desire. These fundamental 3 coverings that you get in the central region are creating havoc in our life because we externalize these 3 things and get entangled. When you externalize these things and get entangled, you are creating samskaras. When you internalize these things and actually are undertaking the journey, you are actually getting detached from the samskaras and the idea of the body and the mind. That's all it is. So when the idea of the sad is correctly grasped and it is internalized, you are actually undertaking a spiritual journey. When the same idea of sad is externalized and you become attached to the samskaras, body and the mind, then you are having this life on earth where you keep rotating. Again, life and death cycle, you are able to just go through that cycle. And all because of one fundamental thing, very simple thing, which is that the soul, which is a speck of reality, wants to align with the higher reality. That's all it is. But it's covered with these 3 coverings, which is the idea of separateness, anxiety, desire. All that you have to do is shed these 3 things and then you will become part of the original reality. That's all, the ultimate reality. That's all that needs to occur. Now, when we meditate, we are actually trying to get over these ideas. So we want to get rid of the desires, or we don't want to get attached to the desires strongly. That's the first thing. As and when we move away from the desires, as we move through the higher points, we get rid of the idea of anxiety. Then ultimately, we get rid of the idea of the separateness. In other words, you will find it very, very easy to mingle with anybody. When you are able to get over the idea, how do you know that you are able to get over the idea of the separateness? You will find it very easy to mingle with any new group of people. That is a sign that you watch out for, that you are now able to get over the idea of the separateness. It doesn't matter. Any new group that you feel you meet. For example, masters meet new group of abhyasis every day, but they are at ease with any new group of abhyasis. They will not say, I want only the smaller group of abhyasis who I know regularly. That's not, because that distinction between people who are known and people who are unknown is now totally gone. You feel at ease with everybody. That is when you can say that you have now got over the idea of separateness. Now, generally, when we are in a group, we assert our individuality a lot. Right? Suppose there are 5 people and 4 people does not listen to what you are saying. Then you will say, I will have my way, my own way, my royal highway. Right? When you assert that individuality, rather than getting rid of the idea of the separateness, you are reinforcing the idea of separateness. Now you might win temporarily, but you have actually lost out in the larger context. In the larger context, you had to get rid of the idea of separateness. Now, by asserting the individuality, you are now reinforcing the idea of the separateness. Does it make sense? So, at any point of time in life, when you assert your individuality over everybody else, remember this point, the idea of separateness you are reinforcing. Okay. Now, you might say that in the office there are 10 people and all the 10 people are wrong and my idea is correct, and you might want to stand up for it. Nothing wrong with it. So, when to stand up and when not to stand up is a signal that is given by the heart. So, on those critical junctures where you stand up and the heart is actually consented for you to stand up, that is the realm where you are not reinforcing the idea of separateness. If the heart is saying don't do it, but you at the level of the mind you assert your individuality, that means you are reinforcing the idea of the separateness. Does it make sense? That is why this critical thing of looking at the heart and regularly being sensitive to the heart becomes critical in our spiritual journey.
ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕೊಡಿ.
ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ವೆರಿ ಸಿಂಪಲ್, ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಈಗ ಗೋಪಾಲ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಬೈಕ್ ತಗೊಂಡ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಬೈಕ್ ತಗೊಳ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಈ ತರದ ಬೈಕ್ ತಗೊಳಪ್ಪ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಐಡಿಯಾ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಎ ಕನ್ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್. Everyone seems to be not a particular type of bike, but they'll give you general criteria. But you are very particular at your age for what you want to buy a bike for or something like that. You are very particular. And then you override all the people's suggestion and then you actually buy something that you feel you want to have strongly. Nothing wrong with that. But it's just that since that you have now overruled everybody else, again, when you are overruling everybody else, your heart will say, don't hurt their feelings, don't hurt their feelings. Right? Because it's not a very big deal. As far as the journey in life is concerned, it's a very small decision. But at that time, we feel that it's a very big decision for us. So when we buy that bike, after hurting everybody's feeling, and when your heart clearly said, don't do it. But you have asserted at the level of the mind, no, this is the kind of specification I want for this bike. This is what I'm going to do. Now you might have got the bike, but the price that you have paid is that the idea of separateness has actually got reinforced rather than becoming weaker. In the spiritual realm, all our decisions should be in such a way that the idea of separateness gradually goes out. In other words, you need to learn to mingle with more and more people with ease. Happy hearts ಬರ್ತೀರಾ? ಈಗ ಮುಂದಿನ ವಾರ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿ ಹಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಬನಶಂಕರಿಂದ ಯಾರು ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಟಾಕ್ ಟು ಎನಿಬಡಿ ಇನ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿ ಹಾರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ the idea of separateness is still getting reinforced. You might meet new people, you might meet unfamiliar people, but you should find your ease with which you are going to do it. When you are able to do that, to that extent, you have actually got rid of the idea of the separateness. ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ?
But still, I have something like, though we consider like we can talk to anyone, we consider everyone's thought, and we consider even heart. But there are some times when we don't want to talk to any person, or there are some kind of people we might not have even met them. This that might be for the first time. But when we talk to those people for the first time, our heart says we don't want to talk. But that is a separation, right? We are somewhat discriminating a person, even though knowing in detail.
Heart will not say, don't talk. It's always the mind saying.
Uh, no, somehow, even though we might not have spoken, uh, I have experienced that few times. Like, um, ಅವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಹೋದ್ಮೇಲೆ I felt like
ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ ಬಾ. Bye then. Have a nice dinner.
Thank you.
so yeah, we should means I should not talk means some frequencies not matching kind of feeling I felt sometimes. So since it was in line,
Frequency not matching is nothing but because of the samskaras. At the conditions of the heart, there is no question of any differentiation. As long as we have the mind functioning and the samskaras in the mind functioning in the different realms, in the consciousness, we can have these feelings of discomfort or vibrational mismatch or frequency mismatch. The vibes are not good and the healthy sometimes. They're all possible. But they're all
because
at
and
they're all at the level of the mind and the samskaras, not at the level of the heart. The more you go towards the heart, the easier it becomes for you to mingle with people. Even those people where you feel that the vibes might not be good, you will still actually talk to them. You will still actually be in comfort with them. The vibe might not be good.
so you are saying this is all because of mind, not because of heart.
Mind and the samskaras.
Okay, and because and sometimes I have seen some people they'll be just doing some bhajan and going on the roads. They might be asking for money, but not directly. They'll just go on. I've seen some people the charm what they have. It was so bright that I was very far and I went to them and gave them money. So some people attract very fast. Even so, these are two different. Some people, uh,
Both attraction and repulsion are because of the mind and the samskaras in the mind. That's all. Both attraction
so
and
you
repulsion.
are saying our
Both.
samskaras.
Because of the samskaras and because of the working of the mind. The heart is universally accepting everything, irrespective of the vibes, irrespective of anything. The heart is a universal acceptor. Okay? And it accepts without knowing that it's accepting.
So
It's like
how
a
to
small
get to that
baby. It's
acceptance?
like a small baby, infant baby. An infant baby will accept anybody who lifts the baby. It does not even know who is lifting it, but it accepts everyone. That be when we get established in the condition of the heart. That's what masters are like. They accept everyone. But till we reach that stage, we will have all these likings or dislikings or attraction, repulsion, all these things are possible till we reach that stage. They're all functions of the mind and the samskaras. Okay, we'll continue this discussion next time around. Till that time, you can feel all these things with the people around you. And let me know in Bidar. Tomorrow morning, you are going to go for satsang, no? See how it's going to feel. because the next meeting is waiting, 8 o'clock meeting. So I'll just log them in. Okay. So nice. This discussion is a very nice thing, but this is the fundamental answer. At the heart level, universal acceptance. Without knowing that it is accepting, there's no question of any repulsion. At the mind level, at the samskara level, you can have attraction, repulsion. You can have liking, disliking. All these dvandvas are possible. Okay? Okay, pa. Thanks for all your time. So nice discussion today. Good night then. Okay? Namaste.
Thank you.
Bye, Chandraguru.
Bye, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.